1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, I'm Lisa, and welcome to Sight Reading Tips for RCM Level 1. Sight reading is sometimes tricky for students, and today we're going to go over all of the tips that you need to become an expert sight reader. And we're going to be using SightReadingFactory as our app to practice all of these drills. The link to the drill that we'll be using today is going to be in the video description, and if you want to purchase an annual subscription or renew your subscription to Sight Reading Factory, you can save 10% using code LISA88. In today's exercise, we're going to be working on Level 1 RCM sight playing, and that uses the keys of C, G, and F major, as well as A minor, the time signature of 4/4 time, the note values of whole note, half note, quarter note, and the exercises will be 4 measures in length. So here are some tips that you can use to get really comfortable with sight reading, and it's a process. So before you play, the most important thing to do is prepare. We're going to look at the time signature, establish or tap the rhythm, check the key signature, check the starting fingering, and we're also going to check for neighbors and skips. So let's go ahead and look at this first exercise. I've loaded it already here from Sight Reading Factory. And I'll show you a little bit more about the app as we go. But what I'm going to do quickly now is just going to switch this over to my other app so that we can write on here. So the first thing that we're going to look for when we're going to sight read is always to check the time signature. Now, because this is grade 1 or level 1 RCM, the time signature is always going to be 4/4. So just double check that it is 4 beats per measure. And the second thing we're going to do is just look through the entire exercise to find out what the rhythms are. So we know we can use whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. And in this example, it's mostly quarter notes until the end when we get to some half notes. So I'm just going to clap the rhythm of those last 2 measures. So I'm going to be actually starting right here, and I'm just going to count and clap those last 2 bars. So here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm sure I know how the rhythms go. If there's any tricky rhythms in this exercise or in any of the exercises, just make sure to spend a little extra time on those. So the next thing that we want to check is the key signature. So I mentioned in the requirements that we might need to know C major, G major, F major, or A minor. And we know that we can check for that at the very beginning of the piece back here with the clefs. In this particular case, we're in the key of either C major or A minor because there's no sharp or flat in the key signature. So then we have to decide which it is. A really good way to check is to look at your final note. In this case, it's C, and so that tells us that it's probably in the key of C. We can also sort of tell by the hand position that's selected for this piece, and which is the next thing, which is to check your finger numbers. So here it says start on finger 3, and it's the note E. So we would start with our 3rd finger on E, and we would start with our left hand with our 5th finger on C. So that does tell us that we are in fact in the key of C. And then the last thing that we will check is where there are neighbors and skips in the music. So looking at the very start of this piece, you can see that the notes are just moving by neighbors and then a repeat. And then here they're moving by neighbors and they finish with a skip. So we want to make sure that we actually skip a finger and a note when we get to the end of that short section. And then it switches hands and it moves to the left hand. And here we're going to look again to see if there's a place where we have to skip. So right away we start off with some neighbors and a skip. And then we hold for a half note and another half note, but there are no more skips. These notes are just neighbors. You'll also see there's a pattern in the music. So this is something else to be on the lookout for, is playing patterns in the music. So in this case, the pattern is go up 3 and skip down, and again, go up 3 and skip down. So those patterns mimic each other, and they both start on the note C. Music likes to do that. So when we set up to play, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we establish a steady, slow speed. And the way we do that is by looking at what might be the hardest part. So you might decide that the hardest part to play are these measures here where we do have to look out for those skips. So in our mind, we would establish how comfortable would we be playing those measures, maybe even just feel them out on the keys a little bit to see how they feel and at what tempo you'll be comfortable playing those. So once you decide on your tempo, the next thing that you're going to do is count yourself in. And while you're counting those 4 beats, you're going to make sure you know what you're playing in measure 1. So then while you're playing measure 1, you're going to read ahead and look at measure 2. So those are your first 3 tips for while you're playing. Decide your tempo, count yourself in, and always read ahead. Now, the 4th tip is to watch for patterns, and we already found a pattern between the right hand and the left hand in the 2nd and 3rd measures. And then we also want to make sure that we're watching out for accidentals, because in some cases, as in F major, we're going to have that B flat coming up on that 4th note of the scale. So sometimes there's going to be black keys. So you want to be on the lookout for those as you play. All right, so those are the tips for getting ready to play. We've done our prep. Now we're going to set up 3 on C, 5 on C. We're going to choose our tempo and we're going to count in, memorizing that first measure. So I'm staring at the first measure and I'm going to count slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm still counting. 3, looking ahead. 4, here's that first pattern, going up the neighbors, down the skip. Notice how steady I'm keeping my beat. And now the ending, I've got D, hold, C, hold. Sometimes students will forget to hold their half notes, especially when they don't happen until the very end of the exercise. So be on the lookout for that. Before we continue with the lesson, I just want to mention a couple of features that you might not see in this lesson about SightReadingFactory. First of all, you can use it as a website as well as an app on your device. You can even print the exercises if you want to, but it has a really great play-along feature, so you can check your accuracy as you're working. So if I press this start button, I've already done all my prep work, it's going to count me in for 4 beats, and then we'll join in. You can change the tempos as well if you want to, but here's how it sounds. 3, 4. So I'm playing along. Now if I make a mistake, I'll hear it. Ooh. And then I'm gonna nail the ending. 2, 3, 4. So that's a very helpful feature for students. So you can check your accuracy of your sight reading as you go. And the great thing about this app is it grows with you. So we're working at level 1 right now, but it goes all the way up to levels 7, 8, 9. It gives you some really pretty challenging drills as you move up the levels. Now, 3 bonus tips. The first one is don't stop. No stopping. If you make a mistake, you have to leave it in the past, because if you play a correction of your mistake, then you've made 2 mistakes. The first mistake was playing the wrong note, and the second mistake was fixing it and adding an extra note into your time, which you definitely don't want to do. So definitely don't stop or fix mistakes. The second tip is to make sure your beat is steady the whole way through. That's really important. Don't slow down or speed up. If you miss a note, just keep going to the next one. Don't try to slow down for anything tricky. Just the most important thing is to play the next note right. Imagine you're playing with a band. They're not going to stop for you if you made one wrong note. Jump over it, keep going. And the last tip I'll give you is just to nail the ending. So always look to see what's going to happen at the very end of your piece. So in this case, it was D half note, C half note. So in my preparation, I probably want to really make sure I know what's going to happen at the very end. All right, let's do another exercise together. If you check the link that's in the description to this video, it'll take you to this exact exercise that I have created as a custom level that uses exactly the key signature, exactly the time signature, exactly the right number of measures, and exactly the right difficulty between the hands for level 1 of RCM. So I'm going to go ahead and click this little blue button in the corner that says next. It's going to load another exercise. So this one is in the key of F major, and we can tell that because it has the B flat at the beginning. This exercise only uses the left hand. So let's go through our prep tip. So first we notice it's 4/4 time. Next we're going to look at the rhythm, and I see there's a half note in the first measure, half note in the second measure, and a 4-beat note in the final measure. So we could clap this a little bit. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F. 2, 3, 4. So we can use that tip, that bonus tip. Know what the ending is. That's going to be my left hand 5 on F. So now the next tip is to check the key signature, and of course it's got the B flat, and then we could set up our hands. In this case, it's just your 1 on C, and it's only left hand, which is probably kind of rare for actual level 1 exam. They'll make sure that the right hand gets a chance to play too. So now we can go ahead and look for neighbors and skips in this exercise. Measure 1 is only neighbors, measure 2 is neighbor and repeat, measure 3 moves by more neighbors, and at the very end, I see a skip from line to line, A going down to F. So let's go ahead and play through. We're going to make sure we have a good steady tempo based on the hardest part of the piece, which if I look at this, it's probably just that first measure into the second measure where I have to watch out for half notes. And I'm going to count myself in and read ahead into that second measure as I go. I'm going to look out for any patterns and watch out for that skip and the accidental. So I'm ready. Before I begin, I've put that left hand finger 2 on B flat because that's the flat I need to play in the key of F. All right, so here I go, counting in slowly. Not gonna stop, keep my beat steady, nail the ending. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2. Here's that skip coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4, off. All right, so let's go ahead and load another exercise. Here we click next, and this one, let's go through the steps quickly. 4/4 time. We could clap through this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's a pattern because we have the same rhythm as the first measure. 3, 4. Now we'll check the key signature. It's key of C. Actually, it's key of A minor, but there are no sharps or flats. And the reason we know it's A minor is because that left hand starts on the note base A. If you're not sure about your notes or you have trouble reading the notes, that's really important. You can check out my playlist using Note Rush, where you can practice reading all of the notes on the staff. So then we're going to make sure that we know where the skips and the neighbors are. Looking at that first measure, I see it skips from A up to C, and then I'm seeing more neighbors. Looking at the right hand, I only see neighbors and repeats. So the left hand has a skip. I'm going to make sure I don't miss it. Okay, so now I'm going to set up with 5 on A and 2 up here on B. Both of my hands are ready to play. I'm going to establish a slow tempo. Look out for accidentals. There are none. Be careful about reading ahead. And now I'm going to nail the ending. I know it ends with my right hand thumb on E. And now keep my steady beat, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two, 3, 4. All right, so let's go on to the next one. So if we made any mistakes at all, we just left them in the past. All right, let's go to the next drill. Now, is this one in C major or A minor, and how can you tell? So let's look at what the lowest note is for one of the hands, and I see the left hand gets all the way down to that bottom space. So where left hand is going to anchor on that A again. So this one's going to be an A minor. So the steps were check the time signature, 4/4 time, check the rhythm. I see half notes, quarter notes, and a whole note at the end. Look for the fingerings, which fingers are going to start. So my left thumb is on E and my right 2 is on B. So I've got the same sort of A minor position. And then I'm going to check for neighbors and skips. So quickly scanning. Oh, I see there's a skip in the second measure. The left hand goes from A up to C. And I see a skip, a pair of skips at the ending of the entire drill. The right hand goes from A up to C and back to A. All right, so we've checked for neighbors and skips. So now our hands are in position and we're ready to play. We're going to count in according to the hardest part, which might be that right hand ending. So we're going to go fairly slow. We're not going to stop. We're going to nail the ending. It ends with our thumb on A. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2. Here comes a skip. Hold 2. Here are some skips. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that was a good one. Key of A minor. So let's load a couple more of these. Again, if you want to check out this exact drill and load yourself lots of unique drills that are exactly at RCM Level 1, just check with the link here in the description. And don't forget to use your discount code if you would like to purchase this annual subscription. It's great all the way up to levels 8 and 9, so it's worth it. You won't be held back by just working at level 1, that is for sure. Okay, so let's quickly look through this one. Again, we're in 4/4 time. I see quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes. It's going to end on this low G. The key signature has 1 sharp, which tells us that we're in the key of G major, and that confirms by checking the fingers of starting with your 5 high on high D and your left thumb on middle D or bass D, and going to look for neighbors and skips. So at the beginning, I see a repeat and a skip. Neighbors up, repeat. Left hand starts with a skip, then neighbors and finishes with a skip. So there's 3 different places I have to watch out for skips in this drill. All right, so now I'm going to set up. I'm going to choose my tempo. I'm going to count in. I'm going to try to read ahead as I go, and I'm going to watch for patterns. Steady beat, no stopping. No stopping or fixing mistakes. Nail the ending, left hand 5 on G. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip. Hold 2. Hold 2. Skip. Hold 2, 3, 4. All right, let's do one more, and then I'll let you go practice on your own. You can try these with me. Why not? All right, 4/4 time. Clapping, I see half notes and whole notes and quarter notes. I'll just clap starting at measure 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the same pattern, and 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and now let's get our fingers set up. That was our 4th tip, and we're gonna look now for neighbors and skips. So first measure has a skip, second measure has a skip, third measure has a skip, and the final measure, no skips. So we've checked out for those neighbors and skips. We might wanna go a little slow if we sometimes have trouble reading those skips. Now we're gonna choose our tempo, count ourselves in, read ahead, look for patterns, nail the ending. It's going to finish with a G on the right hand. All right, so we're not going to stop if we make any mistakes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here comes a skip. Then a neighbor. 1, 2, skip. 3, 4. Right hand, skip coming. Hold 2. Repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I say all these things out loud because that's what I'm thinking as I play. I'm looking for those skips. I'm keeping a steady pulse. I'm probably counting, or I've established an inner rhythm. All of these things are really important for having steady sight reading. But continue loading yourself new drills here on Sight Reading Factory, and you will nail your RCM grade 1 or level 1 sight reading portion of your examination. New beginners can check out Unit 1 of the Comprehensive Beginner Piano Course, a 96 lesson free video course. Or if you need help with note reading, be sure to check out my note reading course featuring the app NoteRush. Have a great day and check back for more videos here at Piano Video Lessons. See you soon.